10 random magic cards rated. Day number 35 by my count. I've been wrong before already somehow, but I'm pretty sure we're right this time. Monday morning, everybody. How was your weekend? I hope the rest of your week is fantastic. And let me take a quick little second before we get into it here, just to say thanks, guys. I've seen all your comments saying like, oh, I start my day with this. I watch it while I'm cooking. I watch it while I'm driving. I watch it at work. Never stop doing this. And like, I see you out there. And I just want to say thanks. I really, really appreciate all the love and support for the series. Let's see what the first card of the day is, everybody. It's Celestial Purge. 2 mana, 1 and a white for an instant. Exile target black or red permanent. How do you even judge like a color hoser? We used to call these back in the day. This is originally printed in Conflux. I did not know that. Really, I would have never have been able to tell you when this was originally printed. Just around the time when I first started seeing it was probably about 2009, 10, in there somewhere. Checks out. But yeah, altogether a solid card. I mostly like rate for casual commander, right, on the series, but I don't know that you're just going to throw this in your commander deck. It depends on the pod, but I'm pretty sure in most pods, this will find a target, but just in general, in a vacuum, I'm going to give this card like a 6.1. It's exile. It says permanent on it. Like, that's pretty good, so I can't really rate it too low. It's a fine card. But Sorami Seer is up next. Only ever printed in Champions of Kamigawa. 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a 2/3 Moonfolk Wizard with flying. You can pay 4 and return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand to discard your hand and then draw that many cards. Oh no, so you have to discard at least 2 lands. I guess you can tap the lands down for its activated ability. You can also use the ability more than once a turn, which is kind of cute. But altogether, it's really bad, isn't it? Isn't that just kind of terrible? I think. I mean, I don't want to discard the lands. Unless I do, right? Like, unless I am doing Splendid Reclamation shenanigans of some kind. And then, yeah, if I'm Splendid Reclamationing and like Aftermath Analysting or Lumra or like all the cards that do that, then suddenly I will have a ton of lands in play, and maybe I can activate this multiple times in a turn, put like 4 lands into my graveyard, draw a bunch of cards, including probably another effect that brings all the lands back from my yard, and like keep using this card that way. So maybe there is like a narrow use for this, but I still think it's just fairly bad, and I'll give it a 3. We'll move on to Temple of Triumph. Oh, the temples. What do you give these? This is the Boros one. At ETB's tapped, and when it does so, you scry 1. This also taps for red or white. Is there? Yeah, there is. I was going to say, like, is there a Surveil land version of this? And there is. And the Surveil lands are just better. Surveil's a better ability, all things considered, and those lands have land types, like forest, island, whatever. So these actually took kind of a hit in quality, given that we have something so much better to compare them to now. But these are still fine cards. And I'm going to give it a 7. Dual lands typically are going to get a relatively high score from me. And I just feel like I have to repeat that every time I score a dual land a 7. But it's a dual land with an ETB trigger, and I just tend to really like that. So I don't know how many commander decks these are going into anymore, but they're certainly not the worst like tap dual you could play. So I'm going to give it a 7. We'll move on to Magma Pummeler, printed in Innistrad Crimson Vow, and yet I'm not sure I know what this is. This is a 2 red and X for a 0/0 elemental that ETBs with X +1/+1 counters on it. If damage, so you're always going to be well behind curve on this thing, a 4 mana 2/2. If damage would be dealt to Magma Pummeler while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. When 1 or more counters are removed from Pummeler this way, it deals that much damage to any target. I do remember this guy now. During previous season, I was like, I don't know, he's okay. He's not that good. It's really not. Most of the time, you're going to pump like 7 mana into this thing to have a 5/5 and like, oh, I'm going to run it into combat, do something, you kill it and it's just going to kill you or your guy. And like, it doesn't work that way. They'll just have go for the throat, like something like that. You know what I mean? Even if you pump 4 mana into this, they can still cut it down, which has got to feel like the worst exchange mana wise, like in the history of Magic. So I don't know. Maybe if you do have literally all the mana, like just all the mana you could possibly have, then like this is a card you want to play. But I think half the time in that like commander situation where you can generate near infinite or infinite mana, you just want like fireball. Why play this guy, So neat, kind of a drafty thing though, and I bet it was pretty good and limited, but I don't think I played any Crimson Vow draft like at all. I don't know, I like him, but he's not good, so I'll just give him like a 3.5. We'll move on to Beast of Burden. Oh my goodness, I have no idea how many cards we've been through. We'll call it 4, even though I think it's 5. Beast of Burden is Blast from the past, baby. This is originally printed in Legacy. Urza's Legacy. This is 6 mana for an artifact creature with star PT. The power and toughness are each equal to the total number of creatures in play. Pretty sick. It's just cool, man. I've always liked Beast of Burden. A good bit, actually. Like, even like way back in the day, I was like, man, we can make this work, and we can't. Like, it's a 6 mana 4/4 a lot of the time, or 5/5. And it does count all your opponent's creatures, so it's special for the commander environment. You know, if all your opponents and you have 3 creatures in play or something like that, it's a 12/12. And that's pretty good. So, I don't know. In like colorless matters decks, artifact matters decks, where you kind of are forced to play with mostly colorless or only colorless cards because your commander's colorless, then this guy's probably good, especially if you have like a ton of servos or some other mirror, like some other token artifact creature that you're producing a ton of. This guy gets much better. So I do not hate Beasts of Burden. I'm going to give it a 5.1, which is probably slightly too high. but nostalgia's, it'll take you places with me sometimes. Volshock Berserker is up next. This is 4 mana, 3 and a red for a 3/2 human berserker with haste. That's the entire card. It's a red snapping drake, right? Like, instead of flying, same mana cost, same stats, but it gets the red ability, the red keyword ability. It's not very good, though. Who wants to pay 4 in limited for a 2 toughness creature? So even there, it's not amazing. Unless you're just like super strictly aggro, and the rest of the cards in the set suck. And this was originally printed in Mirrodin, so the rest of the cards in the set did not suck. Even in the limited environment, you can put together some affinity thing, right? So I don't know, dog. It doesn't look great to me. I'm gonna give it a a 1.9. Is that okay? Is a 1.9 okay? I think it is. Move on to Indominus Rex. Let's get a card we can actually read. It's Polyraptor. We've already done Polyraptor, actually, so that's a free roll. Veteran Armorsmith is 2 white mana for a 2/3 human soldier. Other soldiers you control get +0, a +1. I've always liked this dude, man, like, so much. I don't know how many people are playing soldiers in Commander. I guess you could play, like, Harbin, or there's got to be others. But I just always liked this dude. Like, way back in the day, I was like, oh, this is great. It's like a reverse Anthem effect. It only costs 2 mana, and it's a 2/3. And, like, especially back in Magic 2010, a 2 mana 2/3, actually a pretty good deal. It's like, we already had Watch Wolf by then, so we'd seen 2 mana 3/3s, but, like, you still can't sneeze at a 2 mana 2/3, and you kind of can't even to this day. Not that it's good just because of those, like, that cost to stats, like, ratio, but it's not bad, right? So it's not embarrassing. It's not actively terrible. So I'm going to give Veteran Armorsmith. I mean, this is one of those narrow cards, but a lot of cards are, right? So if you're playing it in Soldiers, I have to give it like a 6.2 or something like that. But just altogether, vacuumized, I'll give it a 5.3, right? No, let's give it a 5.5. Again, 2 mana 2/3, some. Bump it up slightly. We'll move on to it's a 2 mana 3/3 Werewolf Pack Leader from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. 2 mana for a 3/3 with Pack Tactics. Whenever Werewolf Pack Leader attacks, if you attack with creatures with total power 6 or greater this combat, draw yourself a card, Chief. You can also pay 4 mana until end of turn. Pack Leader has base power and toughness 5/3, gains trample, and is not human. So if you have even one other creature with power at least 1 swinging along with him after you activate the ability, you get to draw a card. This, to my mind, is still probably the best 2 mana 3/3 ever printed ever, and there's really not a whole lot of competition. Obviously there's Watch Wolf and Colonian Tusker, I think, but that may have been a 2 mana 3 too. Either way, we also just got a brand new like Raccoon in Bloomburrow that's kind of like a Scavenging Ooze, and it has this exact mana cost, these exact stats, but it allows you to mess around your opponent's graveyard and gets larger later in the game. But I still think this is probably better. Right? A 2 mana 3/3 with the upside of sometimes draw a card is pretty great. Like, that's just very, very good. So I'm going to give Pack Leader, despite the kind of prohibitive casting cost. I didn't really mention that on the last card, but yeah, it's double green. I'm still going to give the card like a 7, which is pretty high. But again, when you're the best 2 mana 3/3 ever printed, I think, then like you got to get a pretty good score. Moving on to Kindle, everybody. In my opinion, kindling. The best wood to start a fire. The King of the Hill reference. Let's see what this card does. I know what it does, but Let's show you what it does. Originally printed in Tempest, 2 mana, 1 and a red for an insta that deals to a creature or player an amount of damage equal to 2 plus the number of Kindle cards in all graveyards. The way you're supposed to read this apparently is it deals X damage to any target, X being 2 plus the number of cards named Kindle in the yards. This was played in Burn back in the day, and we'll never actually see play anywhere ever again. You know, in like modern Burn, you're not going to play this card. In Legacy Burn, it's right out. But back in the day, it was not uncommon to see like 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Incinerate, 4 Hammer of Bogarden, 4 Kindle, right? So this is something I'm fairly familiar with. And I like this card back in the day. This can Lava Axe your opponent at instant speed for 2 mana or take out their 5 toughness dude later on in the game. But when it becomes Incinerate, then it's like a decent Magic card. When it becomes 4 damage, then it's very, very good. So this, and I forgot Flame Rift, it just deals 4 damage to every player, right? So back in the day, these kind of kitchen table burn decks were made stronger by the presence of this card. So I've always really liked Kindle. I'm going to give this a 4.8. I just don't think that it's very useful anymore. So I think it's a little below average. But back in the day, man, this thing used to be a beast. So move on to Steam Core Scholar. Look at his little hat, man. He's 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 weird detective with flying and vigilance. When it ETBs, you draw 2 and then discard 2 unless you discard an instant, a sorcery, or a creature with flying. Still like this guy, dude. I liked him when he came out. He didn't really do much, you know, in Murders at Karlov Manor standard. But you'd see him every now and again in the arena, you know, trying to like replace Fable of the Mirror Breaker, like weirdly. But I guess that's fitting given the creature type here. Also, like, people like this flavor text. I've seen people actively like this flavor text, but I honestly think it's like really lazy. Yes, that is a weird right there. And also, he's a detective, so he would say like, that's weird. Like, I get the flavor text. I just think it's, you know, anyone could have. I don't know. Let's. Good job, all card designers, right down to people who write the flavor text. Good job. You know, you do a great job. Just don't want to be seen being like super negative against the card. Or mostly the people who designed it. But still, I think this is still a solid Magic card, dude. You get a Windrake with Vigilance and like you see multiple cards when it comes into play. It just seems fantastic to me. Fuels graveyard strategies. I will always like this card, and you can't stop me. I'm gonna give it a 5.7. I'm totally serious. You know, that's honestly less of a score than I want to give it. If I'm being completely honest, and I should be. But that is maybe even 11 cards, everybody. That is 10 cards for the day. And that's about it. I will see you guys bright and early for day 36, Tuesday morning. Hope the rest of your Monday goes well. Just hang in there. Just hang in there. You're going to be okay. I promise. Bye.